meme so far is the
Hello, we are starting. Hello everyone. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Esports Blast. Today, I am joined in a very chaotically organised stream by Philip Britt St. McCartney, the director of Enclave Gaming, James Governor Gov, who is the top laner for Barrage Esports, Froome, the former Enclave and Diablos manager, currently turned admin for Proving Grounds, and Carl Reclamation Dixon, former player / analyst. How's it going, guys?
good.
Yeah, it's good.
I'd just like to start off by saying thank you guys for coming on in such short notice after I had to reschedule the previous stream that I had planned.
That's no problem, Camo. Always happy to be here, friendo.
Well, I was going to call this the Enclave Part 2 interview because most of us were previously of Enclave. I thought probably best not to go with that.
No, it's fine. We worked out who's been on Enclave the longest now. I think it's me.
Well, obviously you.
Yeah, well, obviously me. Even though I should probably leave at some point, but me, from Carl, James, then you, Cameron. I think.
That would make sense, yeah. So, moving on, we've got quite a bit of UK League to discuss, something we all thoroughly enjoy. So, starting off this week, at the beginning of the week, we had the UK Proving Grounds, something that you're involved with, Froome. What was everyone's thoughts of the Proving Grounds? At least the first iteration of it.
Okay. Do you want me to start off, or
anyone can start? Jump in where you want.
I think the Proving Grounds is mainly for like players who are sort of like at the bottom end of the top 8 teams, and then the ones trying to break onto the scene. And there's actually a huge amount of talent. The structure building up to it, we worked on it for a while to like get it right. There was a lot of like team balancing and stuff, and I think like it looks pretty good because I thought all of the games were pretty entertaining. There was a lot of decent players. James played in it, so he knows. But I was surprised about the level of AD carries. Like, there's a lot of actually really good AD carries. I think like 3 of the 4 games the MVP was the ADC, at least in my view.
Who was that, Casper?
Well, you had Kevin Man, who got a pentakill in his game.
Played,
he played really
Tristana,
well.
if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he was playing against Ether, who's supposed to be quite a good AD carry as well. Then you had... Yeah, in game 2, the MVP was Shadow. We'll go into that a bit more in a bit. And then you had, like, Casper and Rowley, who... Like, all 3 of those AD carries basically put their teams on their back and did extremely well. It was good to see.
I thought it was very good to watch. I wouldn't say all the games were interesting. There were some interesting games, like the Penta, for example. But there weren't that many players that actually impressed me. I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, for ADC, Casper was one of the best ones that I saw.
Yeah, I put Casper in my team of the week because I thought he may not have got the pentakill, but I thought it's just individual performance overall. He was the most consistent throughout the game he played.
Yeah, I would agree.
I'd go the slightly opposite way. I'm saying, like, are they the best of a bad bunch? Because it's like there's a big skill disparity. Because I think that it was a D4 requirement plus. Yeah. So you have a mixture between some people that might be D4, D3 to D1 low master, and it's a big variance where like it's far easier for one person to shine if they're able to carry and farm off of the weaker players.
There is a skill discrepancy in terms of some of the roles as well. You can see like a lot of the roles you can see are a lot stronger than others. So top lane, for example, I think Scott probably one of the highest average skill there as well. And you would say coming into it, jungle was probably one of the weaker roles, but Shadow in Flames coming out as one of the MVPs of the first week, I think shows that up a lot because he would be considered as one of the weaker players in the role itself.
I think it's easy for players to potentially, read too much into Elo sometimes and then underestimate the players they're against. And then you see, like, in the case of Shadow, I think he's D4. He usually sits around D3, D2, but he's D4 going into the competition. He had a really good showing in the game that he played. And he's the type that thought, "Oh, I'm going to play badly because I'm low elo and the rest are good." So it sort of puts these lower elo players maybe into a pessimistic mindset, but that's not really bad because it takes the pressure off them a little bit, and then they just play their game. Whereas the higher elo players, they've got expectation on them, so maybe the pressure balances out. Better players have more pressure on them, the worse players have less pressure on them.
Yeah, I mean, like for a lot of people, there's only room to gain, and like Shadow would be one of those players. And then for the other ones that are a bit higher up, there's not much room to gain, more to lose, really.
Yeah, agreed.
So you're on about like earlier, proving grounds being the place for people to prove themselves. But we had people like James, for example, and Snuggly coming in as substitutes because certain people couldn't play. Do you think that changed or like the dynamic of what proving grounds was going to be, because you had these people that are not necessarily better but more well known and were not necessarily accepted to scouting grounds that got in and were substitutes?
No, not really, because James didn't get invited to scouting grounds, so logically the next point to go to would be the proving grounds. And Snuggly did come in as a sub, like you said, but I was discussing this like previously. If you're going to proving grounds, you're there to try and prove yourself as, look, I'm a candidate to be on a top 8 team next split, or however many teams it's going to be in the top division. But playing against players like Governor and Snuggly, who are on like teams that are between 5th and 8th traditionally, they're the baselines for what you need to be able to beat or play as well as in order to get onto these better teams. So if you can show that you're as good as them, if not slightly better, then that puts you in a good light to maybe be picked up by one of those teams later on.
I think that does bring into one of the problems with proving grounds, though, in that I would say I'm one of the only benchmarks you could put for the tournament if you want to be, if the reason you're joining the tournament is to get on a top 8 team. For jungle, you could probably say going into the tournament, PFI is best, but he's never been on a top 8 team. He's relatively inexperienced himself. Beely probably says the best mid going into it with experience, but he hasn't played on the team for quite some time now. ADC, look at Elo's, maybe Aether, Casper, for example, but neither of them have really been on big teams. It's really hard to gauge some people's performances because there isn't that known quantity in a lot of roles.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that whenever I look at as a tournament, nothing really matters to me more than me basically testing or seeing whether or not a player has the ability to be to maybe even challenge the top 10 or even the top 4 players. Because I think as Frim knows, when we look at UK players, when we look to build teams, we always rank them, really. So, for instance, top lane in UK, we would say Rifty, then Kerberos, then etc. You go down the list. That list is what me and From always refer to. And if I can't see a new player up against those 4, then it's pretty pointless for me to watch it, because I could just go in solo queue and watch him play against another one in his own elo and maybe even get more of an idea what's going on. So it's always important that we get the benchmark. I don't know how many, like I said, I know James has been in previously he's in the top 8 currently, so and teams. So for top lane, if I saw someone absolutely dog on James, I'd be like, oh, okay, this guy is pretty good, a contender. But if I see Aether versus Gould and one of them shits on the other, I'm gonna be like, yeah. But what happens when he goes against Yusa or someone like Andy Bendy? What's going to happen then? And that's important for me.
I don't completely agree, because these players, they might be a bit lesser experienced, but they have had they have played on teams in FOC, like the open qualification teams, and they've been going up against the top 8 teams when they qualify through the open bracket. Some of them have played in Division 2, some of them have been substitutes. But I think the point of proving grounds is to sort of show players off to potential organisations or teams looking to get into league and picking up players but then you can invite them to trial and then see how they stack up against the more well-known ones.
I mean, I'm going to take like the more business point of view, like organization's point of view of if you're getting into League and you haven't advertised any or gone to any of these organizations that might look, and if you let them know, it's like, okay, by the way, LVP, they're looking to take organizations in. This is the date. We're running this event. Come by, come look, see the players that are on show. These would be good starter players. But like, it feels like this event, it's justified as more of, by the way, we just want to justify our tier lists at the beginning. I love the idea, I love the event, but like having scouting grounds and proving grounds, I love what they're trying to do with it, but it's what are they actually getting out of it at the end of it? Like, are the players, if I tracked how many of these players actually make it onto decent teams that might make it into LVP, 1, maybe 2. Like, I mean, if I wanted to be critically, like, really harsh on them, like, of how many players from that event would make it.
I think actually no. I think there'll be more than you imagine, because of so. For instance, in the, and this is common knowledge, this is public knowledge. So I think I'm allowed to say this, that in the LVP application that they put out, like one of the requirements is that you have to show a sustainable business plan. Now, if an org's coming in and saying, okay, well, let's spend 50k on this one team, well, that's not sustainable, is it? So when you're looking at high tier players, it's actually going to be something like, maybe we're not going to get these. But if we want to show it sustainable, we're investing, a good amount, but not huge amounts. I think we're looking at the these players. These would be a good area to actually scout. It's one of the things I'm going to be looking at these players. There's players already in there that I'm thinking I can make a team around these guys. There's some people in there that actually, people that aren't participating who I'm thinking actually I could get them. But I still think the event itself is helpful for me. But at the same time, there are ways that it could be improved. For instance, how, having that benchmark there so that I can actually test them. Because, for instance, in the ADC pool, even this was for Proving Grounds and for Scouting Grounds, the only person that I really knew about for sure was Yusa. So that was the only person I had a benchmark to go off. But even though he was in top 8, he's not, an ex-Matty, all those level, Yeah. So I think benchmarks are super important for any tournament organizer.
I mean, sorry, go on, Freem.
How do you implement that benchmark, though? Because the thing about these tournaments are they're not really for the established player. So let's say, for example, you used the example Rifty before as top of your tier list.
Yeah.
Would you want to see players like Rifty brought into this competition to play against, say,
Hell
Governor
yeah.
or Tolu?
No.
I
don't think you have to. It doesn't have to be that high of an extreme. I think it's just the bottom 4 teams. It's hard to pick out pool because
I think there's a way of doing it correctly. So you could have essentially a pro team that comes into this, which is not really a pro team, but it's just the best players throughout the UK scene. You put them on a team. You have the regular qualifiers in the tournament and whatever, and then whoever wins that plays against this quote pro team that has the best top, the best jungler, the best mid, the best ADC, the best support from the UK, and then you test them against these people, and then you can see the balance of the best of Proving Ground and the best of Scouting Ground versus the best team in the UK. That's how I would see it being done.
It's complicated though because you'd have to get those players to agree to it. And
True.
I think that for Proving Grounds, if you were going to do that, you'd want to run the best players from the competition against some of the players from potentially between 5th to 8th in LVP. If they're doing better than them, then you know that these players potentially could go even further.
Yeah,
But if they're not doing well against them.
You say that, but then again, do you evaluate them as a team-based player, or how do you evaluate them individually? Because there's been some evaluations recently, like Scouting Grounds and Snuggly's evaluation that I think James said earlier before the stream only actually evaluate their ability to play in a team and not as against their individual opponents.
No, there's no.
Go on, Phil. Sorry.
There's no way. There's literally no. I mean, Proving Grounds have tried to do it in some form by allowing players to set up teams and and come into it. But at the same time, I still think that the whole team idea is like evaluating whether or not they'll be good in a team is just impossible. I think there may be some indicators here and there, but really team-based play can be taught. Mechanical skill is something that that I think you can't be taught. You either have it or you don't, in my opinion. And to be honest, I would have the question earlier where you said like, would you have liked Rifty to be in here? Yes, I would have also have liked to seen Kerberos and James and any other person that was in there to like against each other, because and James has been I would say he's been pushing into the top 4 a lot of the top 4 best top laners in the UK, but I would love to see again how well he does versus players like Rifty to evaluate whether or not he's moved up that stage. Because last time when you played in the previous scouting grounds, didn't you, James?
Yeah, that was when it was Kerberos, Prelude, and Artorias. Yeah,
exactly. And I think we could see at some point that James could compete on some level against players like Rifty. After a split, I would love to have seen, whether or not his mechanical skill has grown. That's why I would have focused more on volume of games rather than trying to do a nice production with a finals, etc. All I want to do is see people play against each other. I don't want to see. I'm not there to be entertained, but I mean, different viewers want different things. But I just want to see.
You got to see it from the neutral perspective as well. Whereas putting on a good show means that more people are going to come in and watch. It increases the volume of numbers, and you go up the rankings on the Twitch, whatever is it.
So what was the point?
So you're saying you don't care about like production value, Phil? You just care about the content and what
you have to look at it
from the games.
You have to look at it from this way. Like, what is the point of what you're trying to achieve? Are you trying to raise the profile of UK esports, or are you trying to help players get into the UK scene? You need to determine which one. You can either try to do both, which I think the scouting grounds have sort of tried to do. But for me, I would have liked there to be one tournament that just picked purely. I want to see how players do against each other, because that's, as a player, if these players want to get seriously picked up, that's what I want to see. I want to see these people interacting and laning against each other. Otherwise, I can see a nice production, but who cares when I'm not going to... who cares if these players are there and there's a nice production if they're not going to get invited to trials, right?
Yeah.
It's not help them. And, I mean, if these players aren't invited to trials or anything, has it really raised UK esports?
It's basically going down from a basic point of view of what is your objective at the end of the day. It's you want to get these players onto teams, and you're trying to show that they have a valid reason to be there. But then why aren't you then partnering with the current UK organizations and getting them to all help you and say, right, can you help us with the social media, get the message out there? Can you talk to people, get viewers in here? They are your awareness and marketing side. Yeah. And the people that will be interested in that objective of, okay, I need players for an organization, will come. Or you say the objective is, I want to grow these players actual followers, their Twitch account, and actually give value back to organizations. Then you do it more for the viewer and entertainment. But I also agree with the point about the games. Genuinely, I've been sat there for all day today watching the scouting grounds and the proving grounds, and it takes hours in between games.
Yeah.
I know there's VODs and things, you can go back and watch it, and they're actually trying to do it for viewership. But at the end of the day, objective, think back to it.
As a manager, all I literally want to see is people playing as much as possible. I want to get as much data on who's playing well and who's not playing well, so I can determine, if I was going to build a team with X budget, would they fit in here? Who's the best candidate to form the best team? And in order to do that, I need to just watch the players as much as possible.
For that then, would it not just be better for some UK teams to organise in-houses, not even necessarily, you can stream them and everything, but you don't have to have high production value, just get everyone in. It's okay, we're going to play some in-houses on this day, this day, this day, and this day, and we're just going to keep jumping straight into games, swap them around a bit, because then that would be a lot of data that you can look at.
Well,
and you could choose which players you want to actually have a look at.
I can tell you now that bless you, James, for thinking that UK can cooperate that much. That's what I'm gonna say.
The opposite way of doing this is organizations, if they keep players if I'm assuming here, like with the growth of in UK esports, that eventually teams will start contracting people for longer than just a split.
Yeah.
And then you're providing events which, if you contact organizations says we would like to use your player, come down to the event to like be our like star top laner as the benchmark. And then immediately you've got the organization on your side because you're using their player, so that's sponsorship and viewership for them. And on the other side, you've gained a benchmark for your players to then play against, and it provides more of like a reason to be there. If you turn around and say, okay, I'm playing against like the top 2 UK teams top laner, it's got a lot more weight than just, oh, by the way, we've got this one player who's got previous experience. Like, unless you know who they are already, you don't care. But if you turn around and say the massive organization with a crap ton of followers comes in and says, all right, here you go, here's my top laner.
I mean, you mentioned about like evaluating and having as much statistics as possible. I think it was you that said this before everything started, Phil, on Twitter about actually listening to the comms of players whilst they're playing the qualifiers and whilst they're playing the games on stream, so you can evaluate. Do you want to see more of that, of like proving grounds and scouting grounds allowing you to come in and evaluate the comms as well?
Like, I think there's so this is one of the things that's funny is that like there's no secret that I love getting fouled. There's no secret that my DMs are open. There's no secret that I'm available a lot. So why aren't people messaging me? Why aren't people? And there's no secret that yeah, exactly. There's no secret that I own Enclave. Yeah, I mean that could, but yeah, like there's no secret that I own Enclave. Like, get in contact with me, message me. I will always check. I will always respond. Like, and that I publicly said I would love to listen into comms. That is the only way that we can actually I could actually say whether or not someone would be good in a team, because comms are everything. That's one thing that actually can't be taught, like comms, and whether or not someone talks, because that's just confidence. But like that's the only way I can determine, okay, is this, you know, if I'm watching the game and this guy is like imagine I'm watching Yusa, right? He's insane. Like, he's destroying whoever he's against, and also he's calling everything. I'm thinking, wow, this player is actually really good. However, all I see is Yusa doing well against other ADCs, but like, ADC is a bit of a bad role because they don't really need to talk. But at the same time, you know, I want to know that stuff. But again, people aren't getting in contact with us. I don't know why.
It also goes back to, like, honestly, you could just open it up, have a team speak, give people the address, and say, all the players mute like certain sounds for people coming in and out of the room, give permissions to like only the people for them to be allowed to talk in the room, and then everybody else can just come and go as coaches, and you can listen in. I think that would provide a lot of value for an individual.
Like Freemy said, it would be additional data that teams can use for scouting players, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned earlier as well, from your MVP for the, so just focusing on Proving Grounds, MVP for Proving Grounds, and sort of like tier lists. Do you think? I mean, we touched on this. Me and Phil did 2 weeks ago when we did the first stream. But like, tier lists, do you think they're good? Because before the stream, you know, we were mentioning like tier lists and how certain people that are proven but not necessarily well known are completely like further down the list than they should be, at least from like an analyst or a coach point of view that knows this stuff.
I think tier lists are fine. It's just I think some people have a tendency to take tier lists to heart. Whenever I see a tier list come out, I'm like, okay, it's good to know what that person's opinion is, but then I'm waiting for the comment to like pop off where someone who's in the tier list is just all of a sudden like, what the hell are you talking about? This is a load of crap. And I'm like, there it is. It's literally like they put the bait on the hook and they've just reeled them in. But I think tier lists are fine. I think, honestly, it should be a motivator. If you're lower on the tier list, you should be like, right, I want to get up that tier list. I want to prove to that person that I'm better than they think I am. And then when it comes to the post tournament, where they reorganize the tier list and say like who's gone up, who's gone down, how close was the tier list to what I thought it was going to be at the start. Yeah, it's interesting. People can rank people. That's
a great idea, actually. Why not just have an interactive tier list that
goes like a leaderboard?
Yeah.
Like it goes in Twitch chat, and then literally you can like say this guy played really well, so like the public can go in and vote. It's like a fun interaction thing that basically brings viewers and that together.
It creates more hype as well, I think.
I mean, honestly, tier lists in my view are just like a marketing ploy. You're just there, okay, cool, it looks good. Created some like talk, some drama, got some talk going, like conversations for points of interest, and typically not very good for analytical purposes unless it's coming from like a respected person, like
See?
if Daruk or Fern
Yeah.
or any of those kind of people that have been working on like top orgs came out and said this is the tier list I think would be like there, I'd be more inclined to be like, okay, fair enough. Other people put it out and I'm like, okay, you don't have a history of being analytical, you haven't watched any of the games from these people in the past or scouted these people, and yet
Yeah.
you've put them in and just put them at the bottom.
See,
Yeah.
I'd much rather see a verified tier list just by someone who's been in the scene and like knows the shit they're talking about than like some random players tier list. Like I'd much rather see like a Proving Grounds tier list that's like verified by Frumi. Frumi's gone through and like analyzed all the players and he thinks this is this, and then it's supported by like another analyst that's working with the Proving Grounds, right? Then some
Fake
like
Cameron,
random,
sorry.
then like
Yeah.
some random player that's
Yeah.
just going to be like, okay, this is my tier list and I've done this.
If you leave it to the public vote on a tier list, then it's literally just going to be like the ones with the more known names are going to be higher up just based on the fact that people know who they are. Say, for instance, Shadow in Flames, no one knew who he was. Some people still don't know who he is. But before the game on Friday, when he popped off, no one knew who he was. An MVP vote went up and Ego Speed won it literally because people know who Ego Speed is.
Yeah.
So I think Cameron's right. If you're going to do a leaderboard, then you have to have a panel that does it, because that panel will be unbiased and then will be able to give like a better clarity of a
I
leaderboard.
mean, go back to what we said earlier as well. That would just come under the eye of like promoting the narrative, as like I think Rex said, whereby okay, this person has now released the tier list. Let's look at why. Okay, they've got this amount of players from this player, and like do it as like a promotional thing and work with the players rather than focusing on the event itself. Like this is Proving Grounds. No, let's do what we're here to do. This is this player. This is that player. Let's promote the players rather than the event, if that makes sense.
I think that's fine with I think that's fine, and I think like doing I don't know, an actual official Proving Grounds thing, like tier list would be fine. However, I think in all cases tier lists are fine. I think everyone here is missing the point that the problem with tier lists right now is that everyone gets mad about them. So you're saying realistically that if the Proving Grounds posts a tier list and someone's not on it or at a low position, that you think that no one's going to reply to that and get a bit mad at it. That's the problem right now, is because everyone's getting mad about tier lists. It's just again my.
In all
Presumably,
honesty,
play people like Frumi, Orcs, or whoever else balance the teams out for Proving Grounds. You would have had an idea for a tier list in your head and rankings for, okay, so this player is, I think this is the best jungler, I think this is the worst support player, so I'm going to balance the teams in that way. So
Yeah, 100%.
all of those players would have had
Do
their
you
own
think the teams were
tier list.
balanced
100%.
fairly?
Well, the teams that I put forward weren't the teams that got finalized, so I don't know whose teams were actually like deemed to be the most balanced by Manimal in the end. But the way I did it was I had a list of all the players, and I had to cut some of the players off because I had to. Originally, it was going to be 4 teams, but I managed to convince them to make it a group system
Yeah.
where there were 6 teams because I thought there would be too many players like harshly cut off. So I did that, and then what I literally did was I had the 6 players in each of their roles. I looked at their previous experience, what I knew about them, and their OP.GG, mainly for the ones that I didn't know, and I ranked them in orders 1 to 6, and I tried to make sure that there was like one number on each of the teams. So like each team would have a number 1, each team would have a number 6, or as close to that as they could get.
Yeah.
And then I submitted those teams forward in what I deemed to be sort of like, this is as balanced as it's going to be.
Yeah.
Mine weren't the final ones. I don't know whether it was like mixed or they picked someone's who they thought was the most balanced, but that's how I did mine.
Balance is never going to be balance is something that, I mean, it's the same thing with seeding, right? Like there's no perfect way to do it. It's never going to be balanced. There's no way of making it balanced. It is just what it is. I mean, the same thing with you take scouting grounds into the mix. Like Lucca was apparent. I think Lucca was the highest elo ADC. Yeah,
200 LP. Yeah.
Yeah. I think like he was very unlucky with who he got drawn with, if I'm correct.
Is that
Didn't play any games with Kerberos or Artorias, and didn't play any games with Demo or Nulty.
Yeah, I think
was
that's.
unlucky.
I think that's one of the key problems with scouting grounds is that the people invited to the finals were invited purely based on how many wins they had overall.
Okay.
Which,
forget scouting grounds for now. We'll talk about that a bit more. But
Okay, yeah, sure.
just as a final point with proving grounds, before we do move on to scouting grounds, in between the games, the interviews, I'd much rather have liked to see different people than what were chosen on the day. For example, one of the games, Ego Speed came on, and I'd much rather heard from like Shadow in Flames that just had a really good game, or like Casper who popped off as well.
Shadow was interviewed because well, originally
Yes,
they were
he
going to
was.
bring Snuggly in, and then everyone was like, no, you should bring in the MVP.
Yeah.
But I think that the reason that like you saw Royal getting interviewed and Ego Speed getting interviewed is because it draws in, it keeps people watching because they're the sort of players. Again, it's a popularity thing. Like they're the players that people know, they're the players that the fans want to hear. So you know the casters or whoever decides adheres to the audience a little bit.
The part I don't understand is, I think it's like, you need to keep the objective of what they're trying to do in mind, which is always, we want to get this player on an org, potentially, and show them off. So why not do an MVP vote for the person who plays the best? That could be a veteran.
Yeah.
Or you can also have, simultaneously, bring two people into the interview, and one person has to be a newbie. Like someone that's not been, or no one knew of beforehand. And then that way you have a veteran in there in the interview, and also you're highlighting to an org like the new player that's come in on their team.
Yeah, Jakey
you can-
just made a good point in the chat though.
Sorry.
That sorry, Carl, I shouldn't have.
Yeah, it's cool.
But, Jakey made a good point that you don't know if they offered someone to be interviewed and then that person's gone. Oh no, I'm too shy. I don't want to talk.
Yeah, apparently
Yeah.
Shipman just said can confirm Casper didn't want to do an interview, so he agreed to send Ego Speed.
Oh, there you
No,
go.
Okay.
meeting Casper Atlanta, I can understand why he would be like not like wanting to go for an interview like on stream.
That's fair enough. But I mean, why not just ask that on their application?
Yeah. That's
And then
another
you
way of
have a
doing it.
database of everyone who then you can schedule interviews ahead of time from that game of all. Okay, these 6 players, they actually want to do interviews. Pick from those.
That's a good way of doing it for sure.
But yeah, I think
Planning works.
if I was going to close off on like both of these events or just proving grounds overall, good idea. Do it again, run it again, but learn from what like people when you get a feedback form going, send it out, learn from it, change the formula slightly, do it again.
So,
the good thing
have
about-
any final thoughts?
The good thing about Proving Grounds, Carl, is that it's still got 4 weeks to go, so it
Exactly, yeah.
probably will improve as it goes on. I thought, for week 1,
It's good. It was good.
Yeah,
bad.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
actually done pretty well. Like
There's a few stream
were-
things that I think needed to be sorted out.
I think
Yeah.
they've already started working on them though.
Yeah.
From the Discord that I've been reading, like they have taken
the-
what was a problem into account and started to work on fixing it.
They don't have the support of an organization. They're running it off their own backs. I can't fault them for any things that go wrong there.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
that.
It's an amateur production at the end of the
yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
But for someone
there's
that's
gonna
running
be,
it
there's
out
gonna
of
be
good,
issues.
like just running it because they want to, really good event, good idea. Just work on it, go back to it, feedback, and keep building on it for like the next. You said it's 4 or 5 weeks. For him?
It'll
Yeah,
be-
yeah, it's 4 more weeks, I think.
There you go. Yeah, you've got 4
And
weeks
hey.
to perfect it and go along.
Guys, maybe you could also let the org owners or managers listen.
UK players want to come help. Let us.
If these events get deemed to go as well, I mean, like Scouting Grounds is already like the XL Scouting Grounds. XL already like has that, but with Proving Grounds, for example, I think if it goes down well, which I think it is at the minute, then hopefully orgs will want to get behind it a bit more, and the production value will increase.
Hey, I own an org.
I just want to point
Send
out
me a
something that's
message.
kind of ironic about the XL point is the organization that has 5 European players in their team is running the UK scouting grounds.
So,
Oops.
one
Is it-
last.
yes,
I was
go
going to
on.
say, other than saying one last thing, who does Frumi think is the best team or who's going to win? Just
You're the
just
balance,
based on
you were the
week
balance
one.
guy, so
I think that based on the individual performance of the teams, I thought that overall the most cohesive team, from what I listened to and what I saw, was actually Team Malware, who played in the last game of the day. Yeah, it's interesting that Phil says that AD carries don't speak much, but I'll tell you that just listening to
No,
Rowley,
I meant they don't have to. I meant like more their role as a role. They don't always have. They don't have to. Not that they don't speak, because I mean, Andy never shut the hell up sometimes.
Yeah, that's true.
as me and him, as me and from when I.
Rowley spoke a hell of a lot and guided his team really well. So I think that Malware looks good, but I mean, there's only one team that's like threatening to be kicked out at the minute is Team 5 Go Sky, because they are they're 0-2. No, they're 0-2. Like, I actually thought that their games that they played in, both the games they played in, they could have won,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
they didn't. But I know that it's if PG beats them, then they're out. I'm pretty sure.
remind me who's on that team, please.
PG or Team 5 Go Sky.
Team 5 Go Sky.
Akers,
Akers, who was
Diabolic.
really good.
Oh, he was the sub actually.
Yeah.
After
Alterilo,
Kazan.
KZ.
Alterilo's good. Yeah, it's not a bad
Hygiene.
team. It's just that they lost both the games. Now they're threatening to go out. But yeah, it's literally if PG beats them, then they finish bottom of the group, and the other two teams qualify, and that's.
I
next
think,
week.
like, because I've been looking at all the other teams as well and like performance of week one. I actually think that Group B is the strongest. I think you can argue that maybe one of the teams in there is like fourth best, but I think the three of the best teams are actually in that Group B.
Banter.
Yeah. So one final question. This is actually from chat. It's from Shicklin. What are your opinions on bench warmers? I assume he means the subs that came in.
No,
I believe
bench,
we did touch on-
Benchwarmers is one of the teams.
The team, the bench
that's-
warmers. Yeah.
That's the Chicken one.
My bad. That's the team he's on. Yeah.
I remember that they were struggling. There's a lot of big personalities in that team. You know, it's very reminiscent of the Tasty Stick server embodied in a team. They were. I think that Ego Speed struggled against Tolium. Like I thought that on the day, because I put Tolium in my team of the week, I thought Tolium played extremely well. I did see him in 2 games, and he did hold his own. Well, he did more than hold his own.
But he
against the top laners was playing.
built Titanic Hydra and Sterex Gage against a full AD team when he could have, apart from Galio, I suppose. But
I thought Tolium was good, but I think PFI was really good. He was probably I think him and Tayo Jung were like close seconds to Shadow on which junglers played well. But I thought that Casper was phenomenal in that team, and Wise, you know, helped as well. Shicklin was. I don't think it was Shicklin's best game, but Shicklin did what he needed to do. I think the bench warmers should get out of that group. They should be fine.
So, just moving on to the scouting grounds now. So I spoke to Ferndog and I asked him for a few comments because we were doing the stream. So I'm just going to read that out if you guys don't mind. So I asked him how he felt the reception to the scouting grounds had been. He said, I think the overall reception has been good. A few people have put forward other ways of formatting it, but I think everyone appreciates the opportunity. I then asked him, do you think it is good for the scene? He says he 100% agrees. He thinks it's great for the scene and the growth of young developing players. The more platforms they have to show their talent, the better. I asked him what his and Excel's hopes for Scouting Grounds further down the line was. They hope to continue its growth and get the backing that they need to create a great annual event. And then I asked him a specific question I want your guys' opinions on. And who do you think has been the standout player so far? And he says, I think there have been a few players who have been really impressed, but the one who stood out the most for him is Yusa, who still performed really well even when his team was losing. So just on that, do you agree with her? Do you think Yusa's been a standout player in the Scouting Grounds?
Yes.
yes.
I mean,
Simples?
it's kind of a weight.
I think
it's
it
a
was
weighted
just
question.
expected as well, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weighted question. Of course, it's yes. Like, if you said no, I'd be like suicide for any analytical work for me. So
I think
I think he's very bad. No one else should trial him this season.
I think that's just for trying to.
We need someone having a different opinion.
I think on the scouting grounds, though, I think the event. I feel like the proving grounds can learn a little bit from the scouting grounds because, as I said earlier, the balance. There's I think a good show or like how you do it perfectly or how you reach perfection in terms of doing something like a scouting grounds is that you do need to hit the right balance between showing enough games and showing players off, but also marketing. I feel like scouting grounds focused a lot more on marketing, but sometimes they went too far in marketing, and sometimes they didn't do enough. Just showing off skill, right? But I feel that's something if they do manage to get into an annual event, that's a balance that they'll try to achieve, and if they do, it'll be great because at the end of the day, you do need more people seeing these players. You do need more people watching UK esports, but you also do need to show off their skill and actually make sure that people have an equal footing. But I think the event as a test, I think probably what this was. A test really to see whether or not it would get a lot of attention. I think even Belong, I spoke to someone from Belong the other night, and they said it was a test to see whether or not this kind of thing would get enough attention, and it seems to have worked. I mean, it was getting close to the viewers that ESL Prem was getting on Tuesday stream, but yeah, I think it was a good event, and I think it showed off some. Feel like it did show off some players that would definitely get trials. Not from Enclave though.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Thanks for that, Phil. You just cut about 10 people's careers out, maybe 20. But the other point of view is that I'm going to take here is: do you think they focus too much on like getting a final event and that partnership over the actual objective of the scouting grounds to highlight talent?
I feel like. They to actually get it to a point where somebody would they would get an actual arena for they go play. You do have to work a lot more harder on that than actually form because they've previously done it, right? And James was a part of it, and they've previously done the tournament and shown off people's skill. I mean, like for instance, James, Nolte, etc. Those kind of players all got team offers in the end, so that they're doing something right there. But with the arena and everything, you do have to always work harder on that because you're not trying to just convince yourself that it's going to be good. You have to convince others that it's good, and actually get that partnership in the first place. I think that's why Fern delayed it in the end. So I don't mind them focusing too much on that because you have to establish that. But now it's been established. I imagine if the next event, if everything, if Belong decide to do it again, that they give more attention also over to the fact that players need to also show off their ability.
I think it's really good they got a LAN final so quick and how they did it. I think that's really good.
Did they show player cameras once or ever have an interview with a player on camera while they had them there? Because I saw that they had Orcs and Hitbrain. And
they only showed them in between. That's just as the game was loading up, but they never actually interviewed a player. All that was on the stream was either the game, the casters, or the bits in between where they were doing the coach the coach review and the VOD analysis.
I think that's a really good opportunity though. You've got everyone there, you can have them do some on-cam interviews or talk to them. I don't know.
The other part for me would be taking a page from a traditional working setting where they invite you to their office and you do an assessment center, and you meet basically all of the recruiting staff and some of the people involved, right? Is apply the same situation where you've invited them all to the same place with these finalist players, invite the organization managers to come. I feel like that would be something.
I feel like that would be something that. I thought about doing it anyway because it's on a Sunday. I'm close to London. I thought about doing it, but sadly I was busy today and I had to do other things. But even though I did play a bit of flex today, but that's something that I was already thinking about doing. But I'm sure again that they will get to that point where they'll want to invite more people. But think about it this way: they had to get the Belong arena. They had to pay. Did they pay for the travel and they've got to pay. So it was a big
for the travel of the players.
Yeah, so essentially you're bringing them down to land for a day, and we all, we've all been to land here. We know how expensive it is. So it was a big investment from Excel, or Belong, whoever paid for it. So I feel like this was a test in the water, dipping their toes in the water, see how it goes. Maybe even next event they'll, I will talk to Excel, Diabolus will talk to Excel. Maybe the actual orgs will come together to provide more funding for these things, because it is essential for us. We do want to see these things. So
yeah,
I would see it as more of like a critique and feedback, and saying like, I think we're all on the consensus here that this is like a really good thing. We want to see more of it.
Yeah, definitely.
But we also say like, it doesn't have to just be 2 or 3 people running it. You can open source it. Like the UK scene, there are qualified people here that would help you. You just need to ask them or approach them. And I think that's a kind of like, the UK scene at the moment is like the idea graveyard, where someone gets a great idea, they think they need to work on it themselves, and then don't ask the right people or get into the right places to get help to get the idea off the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
But for Youthful, for example, you get the same benefit as a lot of in Excel in many ways from them running the event and showcasing player skill. But you've put no investment into it. You haven't paid for the travel. You haven't organised it in a way.
Yeah, of course.
So obviously they didn't ask for anyone to come and help them.
Yeah, exactly.
Like other roles, for example. But
I feel like, again, this is what Excel do quite a lot, is that they take the first leap. Yep. Mainly because I feel like they do have they're in the financial situation to do so, but they do, because of that financial situation, they are able to take that leap and do things like this. Again, though, I'm friends with Kieran, who's the owner. I'm friends with Barnetto. I'm friends with Fern. Like, any point, I've always strived to be or to cooperate mostly with UK orgs. Sometimes that's fire back in my face because they take my ideas and then run off with them. But it is something that we need to do more, and I would love if XL and Enclave could do something next season to just maybe even add some of my expertise or my connections to just improve that next step. Because as I think Carl and Cameron are saying, is that in the UK it's a special situation where everyone wants everyone to succeed in a sense. No
one wants to help each other. That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. We all want to succeed, and we all want everyone to succeed, but we won't help each other, and it's really weird. It's a really weird climate to be in. But again, XL have made the first step here. I'm pretty sure when the next scouting ground comes around, I'll be messaging, Kieran and stuff like that. I mean, I remember for Proving Grounds, I said to Jakey, who was also running it, tell me when it is. I'll get Sam, who was our social media manager, to tweet out. I don't mind doing that. I will help out. But again, when I say stuff like that, and then it doesn't, I'm offering my help, but not everyone takes that, just messages me or thinks about it.
I mean, there are people in the scene that... Sorry, Froome, do you want to say... Oh, that was Carl. You two sounded really similar for a second.
Sorry. I was just going to ask Froome, what his point of view... Because, you're obviously helping run Proving Grounds in a way, being the admin in the rooms, so talking to players and the individuals running it. What's the comparison you're finding, between Scouting Grounds and Proving Grounds internally?
Well, I haven't been internally in Scouting Grounds. I think that... I don't know, they are different because, Scouting Grounds focuses more on the player, whereas, in Proving Grounds they're put into teams. I don't know, I think that both do need a little bit of work, but they are run by people who know the scene, especially Scouting Grounds, has the backing of XL, and, they're able to take them to the, what is it, the Red Bull Gaming Sphere and stuff like that.
It was Stratford Belong.
It was the Belong Arena, sorry, okay. Well, that's pretty cool in itself, being able to take a bunch of players, run a tournament and take a bunch of players to a LAN, essentially. I thought that, that's impressive. But I don't think that they're both competitions are too far off the pace from being really good. I think, they're drawing the eye of the community. Both are getting Proving Grounds was on 100+ views the other day. Scouting Grounds
was amazing.
Scouting Grounds gets 250, which is Phil
for
said
the qualifiers,
that was ESL. That was ESL at one point.
Yeah.
The numbers today are a lot less. unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a Sunday though. It's
Oh.
This is one of the things that I may be taking into account next time as well, is scheduling, etc. I feel like because obviously Fern delayed the tournament, if I'm remembering correctly, that they didn't have much time to, like, a lot of time to work with it, or to work with it. But again, now that it's been established, I'm sure next time they will do something. This is and bringing up the same point is that I know that Proving Grounds, when it was being I think when it was in its early conception, they were thinking about doing the exact same thing as Excel, getting finals going. However, they just didn't have the connections like Excel does.
Someone's washing machine's taking off in the
Yeah,
background.
sorry, I think that's mine. But yeah, like, I think they wanted to do the same things. So sadly, they just didn't have the connections to achieve it. But again, that's where, could have messaged me. There's esports bars out there that are not belong, and that I would be happy to have an event like this.
I mean, see, the thing is... Sorry, go on, Fred.
I think if you would have tried to have run something like this in 2015-16 in the UK scene, there's no way it would have gotten as much traction as it has in today.
Yeah, true.
Like, there's no way you would have gotten the finals of a scouting competition to an esports bar, or gotten the viewership.
Not many existed back then.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, it's just showing that there is progress, really.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, on the point, as like Cole said about like the idea Great Flood. The thing is, like, there are people out there that will help. Like myself, last week, I nearly streamed the qualifying games for the scouting grounds because Fern came to me. I've always said if anyone needs me to stream, I'll stream. Carl himself, what he's done, he's helped me launch this and worked with me on this. There's people out there that do genuinely want to help, but as Phil said, people, and I said, people just want to do things themselves. They don't want to take this help that's being offered. They'd rather do things for themselves, which I think it's kind of, don't want to use this word. I think it's a bit toxic for the scene in terms of, like, it's just people doing things for their own sake. You know what I mean?
I mean,
no, it's entirely true, because there are loads of people out there who have. The UK scene has always been full of people with egos. It's just always been a fact. Ego, and do you know what? That's probably why we have had so few players that have got into pro scene, is because honestly, like, the amount of egos that you get in the UK is beyond ridiculous. So it transfers over into management and events management, etc. Like, it's not just players that suffer from it; it's everyone. I mean, I have an ego to some certain extent. We all do.
Yeah.
But I just wish that people would move past that and accept help. But it sometimes it is a scary thing to do. You don't want to get rejected, etc. I feel like stuff like this helps a lot, because it's like I'm essentially sitting here saying, message me. Like, I will help in anything way I can. And I've already had one message right now, and I'm pretty sure Shicklin is going to look to message me now. So, stuff like this helps stop that. But it's just something that we've suffered with for a long time.
I mean, the other side of point of view of this is if I take it from a player's point of view. Back when I started, you're a D2 player, whatever, like, you're coming in, okay, I think I might be good enough. The first thing you're hit with is, oh look, another random.
Yeah.
Like, you're just immediately, any tier list, any part of publicity that comes out, you're not called like, oh, he's an unknown talent.
It's more toxicity.
You're just a random.
I think that gives me, to be honest, that comes from people that are somewhat insecure.
Yeah.
No, I feel like
sure, like they don't want to, like, lose their position in the.
If I was going to call people out and cut you off, I think it more comes from people that literally don't have a single achievement to their name, and they need to put themselves above other people, having done nothing, and then just cause people around them. You don't see Rifty. You wouldn't see, like, other people coming out and wasting their time on people coming into the scene. They'd be more like, cool, come on board. Like,
yeah,
like he's too busy working on himself to get better and go somewhere. Like, a number of players have done that and got out of the UK because they know the end goal is to be there.
I do not see. Like, I think you're right, Carl. Like, I do not see the more seasoned, semi-professional, professional players in the UK scene actually going around and being toxic like that anymore. Like, they have settled, but you see it more from, like, the players that are on the fringes. Unjustified egos really are a problem in the UK scene.
I'll be happy to say like that. I think sometimes actually that I don't agree fully with Carl there that you just walk in and then people call you random. I mean, actually, when Enclave was first, when I first came in, we were called a meme team, and then the person who called us meme team was Chin, and then we knocked Chin out of ESL, and I was just.
But I mean,
favorite moment of all time. But I think sometimes people do get called at random simply because they come in with that ego. They think that they're the dog's bollocks and instantly get shit on. Like for instance, Aethel was one of the people that came in, talk. Don't show up, but just talks, and loads of people kept calling him a random, and it was just like, well, you're not going to get this attention if you actually came in. Like, for instance, I wouldn't go to a job interview, walk into the job and be like, all of you guys, you're shit. I'm great. I'm better than all of you, and then not expect them to turn around and be like, who are you?
That's Phil telling how it is.
So
I think new players have to understand that it's a bit more organic, and you have to wait, and you have to be a bit more patient for growth.
Yeah.
Like, so I look at where I was a year ago today. Like I'd only just been in scouting grounds. Like I performed well in scouting grounds, and that was like a proper starting block. But since then, it's just like slow progress, and you just got to wait and be patient for that. You can't come in and expect everything and expect respect and expect everyone to put you higher above their lists.
James got onto Enclave as a sub because, and like at the time, I think you were around D4, weren't you, James? Around that time when you came on as a sub.
No,
so,
I think he was higher because he subbed for Dusk, if you remember correctly.
No, at some point when you were sub, I didn't think, oh, okay, James is really this is a fantastical player. We need to get him. I thought he's a really good chap. I can really see that he works hard. He has a good attitude. These are, and he doesn't instantly come in and say to Prelude, "You're dog, mate. I'm taking the spot now." Like, no, he's polite about it, and he comes and he presents himself in the correct manner, and that's how I feel that he has got to the position he is now, where he's on teams like Barrage. But there are some players out there that do come in and they do have a massive ego when they haven't achieved anything, and that's when you're going to get the backlash. It's with anything, and that's not in the UK. That's anywhere. It's just how it is.
There's also the opposite point of, I've seen people that have come into the scene that are hardworking, they're good people, they get mixed in with the UK scene, and then they start turning into that person that starts calling people randoms and joining in with it because it's just the environment that the UK scene. Like, if you fall in the wrong group, you can go one of two ways, where you either you stick to yourself, you stick to your guns, and you're a good person, you get onto a team, or you go the opposite way because you just didn't quite make that breakthrough when you thought you would. And then you start looking down on people that are coming in. It's an environment difference, I think, personally. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, I don't know actually, because I doubt you'd be able to say. But I was going to ask for an example of that, because I haven't really seen that. I've seen hardworking players come in and keep their heads down and not be egotistical. This season we've seen Yusa and Nolty come in who have never talked the talk, but have walked the walk, and now they're two highly valued players in the UK scene. Yeah. They never once said anyone's dog. They just got down on it, worked on themselves, and now they're high up in the overall rankings.
Like I said, there are people that come in and they actually do it, and they avoid joining in on that environment and that kind of social circle. There are certain pockets of individuals that hang out together and will continually try to bring other people down, while also trying to back up their skill and trying to get onto teams.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a bit of a minefield when I'm trying to if I was a new player and I'm coming in and okay, this person looks like they've been in the UK scene a while. You start talking to them, you get involved with them, and then you realize, oh crap, actually this might not be so good for a contact of for a person.
I feel like it comes down to I think with that kind of situation, it which way you could go. That very much comes down to personality, and I think. And I have a good example for this. When we first signed Scood, Range Expire, as I think some people will know him as well. Lovely, lovely kid, absolutely lovely kid. However, after he then started getting in with the Twitter, memesters, he did fall off the track a little bit, but because he has a personality where he's very driven and he does know what he wants to achieve, he stopped that and got back on track. It does come down to personality. Some people just, again, there are just some people out there, and I don't mind saying this, that are just not cut out for it. If you come in and somebody calls you a random, like Hanson has just said in chat, and you take that so to heart that you lash out at the UK scene, then you're never meant for this, because these situations are extremely high pressure. You're going to always have a social media attention. You're always going to be called bad. I mean, even people like even Faker gets called bad. You know, so many people want to see Faker fail. However, that guy, he doesn't care. He just, I can guarantee now, he just doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Because, you know, so.
I just wanted to look at, so Hanson, this is probably because you're aiming at me with the conversation there, is he asked, would anyone care if they got called random, come in, basically smash face, and you'll be on a better team next split? I'm aiming this more at the people that say like D3, breaking on D2, they just need some like help and time to develop over a season, where they might potentially hit Diamond 1 or Master and then go on to a better team. But like when you first come in on that D3, D2 point, you kind of hit like you can hit a wall where you'll run into people that are just like dicks to you. And that's from my personal experience as a player when I was at that level. I came in, luckily I ran into good people, but I did run into a number of people that were dicks, and I noticed it myself as well. I started doing it to people.
Back to the scouting grounds. Sorry, finish that point, Phil.
No, I was going to say, but the thing is that I know for a fact that Carl is a good lad, and I know that if you did that, the thing is that you'll instantly realise that, and then you'll set yourself back on track, and guess what you did. So it comes down to personality, and anyone who has that sort of personality that goes the other way, it just means, no offense to them, they were never meant for this.
If I'm going to tie it back to scouting grounds, might be a really good point of view to give all the social contacts for the people that are respected within the scene, to then give out certain points of contact, really. Just tying it back in so you can get back on track.
So, yeah, talking about the scouting grounds, we were talking earlier about XL running it. Mm-hmm. And Phil, your point of view, at least in the past, has been on, if you put in the investment, you should get out what you put in, right? Do you think XL should therefore get the cherry pick of those in the scouting grounds because they're running it and they're putting this investment in, or do you think it should be ran by somebody else who's got the backing? It'd be a level playing field, and teams have their fair choice of players.
Wait, so just to make sure I'm getting your question correct, are you saying that because XL did like run the whole event, that they should instantly be able to say, like in a draft kind of scenario where they'd be like, okay, we're allowed these people?
No, not necessarily allowed, but like, so for example, LVP's next split, right? They've run the scouting grounds. These players have played as part of the XL branding on the scouting grounds tournament. Is it fair that XL should get the option to pick these players up before any other team, or approach them before any other team because they've put the investment in?
100%.
No,
I mean they could approach them like today if they wanted to, but it's just
exactly
a team's gonna the player's gonna choose whatever team they want to go with, and choose the players they want. Like,
I don't think that. No, I don't think the question makes sense simply because the players themselves they're not tied to XL in any single way. They're not signing any contract. They're not doing anything. They're there for a scouting grounds. They're there to show their name. If XL can contact them whenever, but I can contact them whenever. No one should have a pick over who. And I'm pretty sure that XL did this as a way to show that they were trying to push forward UK esports as well. So they're getting stuff out of this that we probably won't see. But like to say that they could get. The only way that would make sense is that if it had.
I'm not saying they do that. It was just a general observation.
No.
Like,
I mean, like I'm saying the only
way. Do you think
they
should for putting the investment in?
The only way that they would be able to do that would be if there was some sort of draft system where there was a certain number of players and we had to pick from them. But even that, I think no, of course not. Like no, players should be allowed to go to whoever or choose whoever they want. It shouldn't. Yeah.
I think the way of looking at this is taking it from more like football contracts and sporting contracts, where it's like they reserve the right to speak to the players first. The players can negotiate for themselves, but they're open to reject it and then talk to other people. But XL have like first right to talk to them and negotiate their contract.
That's the point I was trying to make. Yeah.
No, but that would mean that they would have to. So the scouting grounds wouldn't be a scouting grounds. That would be a tournament set up by XL. where all the players are then contracted to XL, and then XL get to talk to players first because they're contracted to XL.
This is more of like a thing of if they did it next year, how would you change it? So it's not sponsored just by XL. If it's done by the UK, how do you then, in that situation, hypothetically, start making it a level playing field?
That was my other part of my question as well. How do you make it more of a level playing field? Because XL have got the backing, and we need the scouting grounds.
Once you put something public, you can't.
Level playing field in what sense?
In terms of all teams get to put in and invest into the scouting grounds.
No, because again, because some organizations. So you have to look at this as the reason why XL are doing this is because they're in the best probably out of all the organizations financial situation. However, sadly, not all organizations in the UK have been given the exact same chances that XL have. Now, that's not to say that XL haven't worked for it, but just that, like with the Gfinity, when that came around, XL were in the right place at the right time. It's in most things with life, you're only ever the reason why you get things, I feel like, is because you're in the right place at the right time. Not every single org has benefited from that. So to say, to be able to do a scouting grounds, like you all guys have to invest in it. Well, no, because not every single, that's not the focus of every single org. I would say that this was something that XL did simply because XL had the financial situation and they wanted to do it because they want to show that they are pushing forward UK esports, which is a great thing to do. But they didn't do it just because they love UK esports. I'm sure it was a reason, but I'm sure they're getting something else for this in return, like for instance brand awareness.
I think it's more phrasing it in the question of what happens if they decide to close the chips and decide to be like, if they didn't want to be the leading UK and just said be selfish, like, this is actually a really good highlight of when we're going about the argument where people aren't helping each other. XL do not have to run this event with their name, with all the financials.
Exactly, yeah.
They're not obligated to do that. So if they really wanted to, they could cash in and say, sign these contracts. So in reality, all the people that are viewing should understand that they are wanting to work with people. The people in the UK want to work with each other. You just need to talk to them. It's not scary. Just open up your DMs and message each other. Question in the chat as well, which I'll aim for Phil, I guess. I mean, I don't take it. He's asking that if we involved all the organisations, would it overcomplicate things? I'm personally on the view case of no, because businesses, you can open a Google Doc and just say, send it out. This is what I want. 8 partners. You don't have to do anything. We'll organise it. All you need to do is just get your manager to show up and maybe do some social media tweeting.
No, I don't think it would create hassle. I mean, at the end of the day, it'd be at the disclosure of the orgs of whether or not they wanted to fund money into it or not. And then those who did fund money into it, it would be at their disclosure on whether or not they wanted the other orgs to allow it. However, if XL are doing it purely because they want to help it, UK esports, of course they would let other orgs participate and help out and do stuff like that. At the end of the day, this is scouting grounds. We're not building something like Jesus. It's scouting grounds. Players play against each other. They shitstomp them. They shitstomp people. We watch. We say, okay, that player's good, and we trial them. There's nothing like overly complicated about it.
Who died?
Olivia in the background.
There's not something overly complicated about this. It's like, at the end of the day, like all 8 orgs could have done it, because there's to put it on Twitch and host the games. It doesn't take any money. It's just that XL have taken the extra step to say, do you know what? We have good connections with Belong. This is something that we could try. Let's do it. And that's all that's happened here.
The only part I would really like to see is to people to give feedback. I just want to see it go around and just see what everyone's thoughts.
Like the LVP did.
Yeah, like LVP did, but like do it for the scouting grounds, make it an annual event, and then once it becomes an actually like officially run event, and UK orgs can put it on their calendar every year and say, this is when I'm going to go scout players. I think that would be really helpful.
We say make it an annual event, and that's what Fan said in his comments that they hope it to do. But I think maybe you do it as hype in between splits, possibly, where. Or does it get to so in between the end of a split and the start of another one, or do you think that complicates the scene too much in terms of there's too much going on.
I think it would run down to Fern, because if he wants to be the lead dog on it, it's whether or not he has the time. Unless you outsource it and give the idea to someone else, because Fern's going to be there like, I'm coaching a team in a split, prepping for next split. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it comes down to schedule, because there may be something in between the season and the off season now, or there might be something in the off season that players can also participate in. I mean, scouting grounds are only really good when there is a lot of when there's time, because as me and From and Carl and James will know, is that sometimes you'll end a split and then it'll be like, okay, now we need to prepare for next split, and you know, these are the players that we have in mind. Let's start contacting them. Let's start getting trials, because there's not that huge of a.
That's definitely the case for the break between spring and summer.
Yeah,
you're pretty much like finish the split, you get about a week off, and then all of a sudden you've got to start thinking about the next split straight away.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
I was thinking of more as like a football type of thing, where like in between the seasons you might want to drop players, and you might want to bring new players in, so you have like maybe player transfers or something like that.
The problem as well with having it between mid split sometimes is that orgs will want to do quick deals, but off season will bring forward the problem where, oh no, I want to play this and see what happens after, and it doesn't actually give us enough time to actually contact people. I mean, so I mean that's more from an org perspective. For the players, it may make more sense, but from an org, it would be the schedules are just too crazy.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here as well. From a manager's point of view, player's point of view, from James, because you're more current than I am. But if you're in the middle of a split and you are thinking of trading someone out, when you just keep organizing scrims as usual and sub in one person occasionally to see how they would interact and like what the change would be, rather than doing a whole event and being, okay, I found a new person, you'd rather just slot them in with the other 4 people you've got and scrim them.
From my perspective as a player, like if an org during the off season, if we're talking specifically between spring and summer, if any org was just like, okay, we're just going to be hosting like some preliminary trials. If you want to come and trial with us, sign up. You have to be this requirement, this, and this. I'm pretty sure like every player that you ask for would come and have a go, just for the competitive experience, just for the fun of it, really.
Yeah.
Most of us. Look, the thing is about scouting grounds is that this is a time where because of the whole LVP situation, no other org is looking for players right now in the UK. No one. No, I mean, we're looking at players and saying but we're not contacting them. We're not doing trials. Whereas like during an off season between like from said spring and summer, we're instantly on trials, and most of these people are already being involved in scrims anyway, so there's no point for a scouting grounds, because we're already doing the scouting already.
There's not enough time.
Yeah.
There's simply not enough time.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think it will be the case. But I mean, at the end of the year, like we are in right now, because we always finish in what time?
End of August, pretty much.
Yeah, end of August, don't we?
Start of September.
Yeah.
So we have quite actually like
early September,
Yeah.
So we have like 3-4 months really to do something like this, because the season, like basically the year's over. I mean, for instance, I didn't even know that 2018 is really nearly over, but after last split, I finally realized like, oh shit, we actually have some time now, because the first half of the year was so crazy.
Yeah. Like this time last year when I was on Diablos, like we would be starting trials around now, because we were aware of what was going to be happening. Well, roughly what would be happening within the next split. But because there's so much uncertainty about what LVP's doing, and the fact that no teams actually have spots, no team who doesn't have a spot in the league is going to be contacting players and staff at this juncture, because if they start contracting players and then they all of a sudden get turned down from the league that's being made, then that was pointless. So I think it makes the season, the off season, even longer. Really.
I mean, like from my own personal experience, I would say that you could take that point of view where it would be pointless. However, what happens if you do get in? Then it's really good planning. So right now, I would say we've already contacted staff. We're looking to now contact players. We're now looking to get everything set in motion because I believe that the whole LVP process will be a quick turnaround. But
I don't.
Did you see the timeline that they gave?
There's a timeline.
I'll talk to you about it after because I don't know whether or not it's public.
Yeah,
but,
see, that's the thing about P. Don't know what is public and what is not because there's the Discord chat on the 9th, and we don't know how much of that we're allowed. to share.
that no. If the Discord chat was public, it was open to anyone, wasn't it?
I thought you had to represent an organisation.
See, that's what I thought as well.
Yeah. Then I won't mention it. However, it looks like it will be a quick turnaround. So,
well, I know that the deadline is November 23rd, but from what I've heard, like they're not gonna rush into like telling people who's got in and who hasn't. Yeah. And with regards to like contacting staff and that's what I've heard. With regards to like bringing in staff and people receiving offers, surely you hold off on signing anything before you realise they've actually got a spot in the division.
It's kind of like preliminary. It's like I will give you the contract based on a successful application. And then you kind of like, okay, if it doesn't go through though, you can talk to other people and get stuff in place. So it's kind of like a really up in the air for some organizations. Kind of
I mean, you trial people anyway and turn them down. So like, it can sometimes just happen. Like, I feel like actually planning stuff right now is a good idea. It's something I will definitely do. It's up to the other organizations whether or not they want to hold off or not. It's at their prerogative, but. You know, if we get in, then we'll be already 10 steps ahead of them because we've already contacted the players and had a discussion with them.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say to Shinglin, when he's asking, do you guys have any idea when you will know who's in and therefore when trials will start? Take it as indication from Phil saying that off now to then start looking at players. You can kind of get a good guess of when people are going to start looking for trials.
Yeah. So just to move on, if anyone has any final points on scouting grounds, because I'm just curious at the time. One last thing I did want to mention is there's a bit of debate between NSG Stewart and Josh Ferndog around the qualifiers of the scouting grounds. So the main issue that Stewart had is he was complaining about the format of how the qualifiers ran, and he said he didn't agree that the games were situational, so it wasn't the qualifiers weren't a fair justification of a player's individual ability. Do you think the qualifiers were ran in a way that highlighted talent correctly?
Okay, here's the straightforward question, because nothing is ever balanced. There will people always miss out. It is just the way it is. You can't change it. End of. Lucka was very... Yes, it's funny his name is Lucka, but he was very unlucky that to get not Kerberos. Basically the people who you would already establish as good players in the UK. He was just unlucky, but do you know what? I can already see that the guys, the actual scouting grounds or whichever one he took part of, like I can already see that he's 200 LP. That's already been covered. I will offer this guy a trial just because of that reason, just so I can actually test him. Because that's sometimes the actual it does. I don't have to always watch the name, see the names, because just to see their elo and see. I mean, elo doesn't always mean that they're good players, but just to see that will make me interested anyway. So sometimes just their name being brought forward, but at the end of the day, people are going to be left out. It just happens.
Final thoughts on scouting grounds?
I think it was too fast paced. That's just for me. Like I think it was a bit too fast paced. Like Phil said, players missed out on playing with potentially better players, and it's a bit of a coin flip about who you're going to get put with in that little amount of games. And I think sometimes better players missed out because they weren't given the same resources to get into the finals or whatever. I think there needed to potentially be more games or more swaps. But I just think it was a bit too fast paced. I think it needed another week or so.
No, I agree. Again, wait, how did they do it for the last scouting grounds? James, did they let everyone play with each other, or?
There's more games, weren't there, James?
I honestly couldn't actually say. It was basically the same like qualifying, but it was over 2 seconds.
But no one got kicked out, and then there was no final.
No, there was no final or anything. It was just a set amount of games.
Whilst it's just checking that, Carl, what are your final thoughts on Scouting Grounds?
Final thoughts are great concept. Love the idea of having finals and partnering up and taking it to the next level. If I was going to look to take it to the next above that and go, I would look back on the objective of what you're trying to do. Maybe having little infographics with the player's name, champion, some of the favorite champions they've got, their Twitter, and maybe a little thing about them, just during the breaks. So there was long breaks between games. You could show little infographics of like, okay, these are the top laners we've got all their social media on there. It's got their stuff on there. You can go find them then. Go contact them.
One thing that I would do if Enclave partnered with them is that for every single individual player, I would provide them an information pack on how they can look basically, or how they can basically put forward themselves towards organizations. Making sure that you have a Twitter that's professional. Make sure you have a Twitter, because me and From know this the most. Not every single player has a Twitter, and it is the hardest. It's so hard to contact them, or they don't have an email or whatever, and it may actually loses people offers.
DMs not being open.
Exactly. So information packs like that are just extra things I would love to add, simply because the objective of this thing should be, I think it should have two objectives, right? Raise the profile of UK esports, also show off people's skill. You can stuff like that really does help players, even with Twitter, because one of the things that the UK has a problem with is that is not enough marketing. Like not enough people stream in the UK. Like for instance, in the German scene, more people like some of the people who play in it have got like 2,000 viewers on stream. Yep. So stuff like this and just telling players these kinds of things can actually really raise their profile. And trust me, people do get positions even if they're worse than other players simply due to their profile.
Because I was also threw out the idea a few days ago. I put a tweet out for the Scouting Grounds. Is I'd love to see people stream from their point of views, during the game. That
could be good.
But they were worried about the comms, which I kind of pointed out to them and said it's not about winning or losing. The idea here is the objective is you get on a team, right?
Yeah.
But he also raised like the thing of he didn't know if his teammates wanted that. He didn't know if he was conflicting them with XL as well and taking viewership away from the stream. And my entire ethos of that is if XL are wanting to run it, they want to help players. So do it for yourself, but then maybe add links back to the actual mainstream or whatever.
Yeah, just while waiting for James to come back, I will add another point. As Froome and Phil said, if you are a player, make sure your DMs are open, so teams who potentially want something, you can contact you. That's the biggest important thing.
Because there's no way I'm going to tweet someone. Open your DMs, because I can tell you now that other orgs will be looking at that tweet and thinking, oh, why is he tweeting him that? Oh, well, maybe this player's good. Because for instance, we found previously players that are in the UK that other orgs don't know. And that was information that we kept secret. It's the exact same thing that Misfits did with their jungler. Flicked. I think the what's his name? Joe knew that Afflict was UK, but no one else did. So information like that is very important, and having your DMs open is very important. So many situations where that's happened. So but I think to round it all off, Scouting Grounds was a great idea. I think that they did the best with the timescale they have and everything. I like the players that are there. I 100% know will get trials. So it was a successful event. Next season or next year or whenever they decide to do it next, let's just see how it goes then and have another show like this.
Did you manage to find the information, James?
It was so I believe it was just each player played 6 games. Yeah, each player played 6 games, and then it was just the same format as the qualifiers, so it was just switching it around and stuff. So,
can I just jump in quickly?
Yeah, sure.
So, like, I mentioned a point about players streaming, right? And people were worried about the viewership. The way to think about that is not that you're taking viewership away from the main channel, but rather that you're viewing the same content just from a different point of view. Like, if XL turn around and say we had 100 viewers on our stream, but we also had all of the players' stream, which had this amount of viewers, you're not taking viewership away. You're just merely, like, diversifying it from where people want to take the information.
Yeah.
Also, this applies to more to Proving Grounds and Scouting Grounds, but have your summoner name the name you want to be known
Oh,
by.
yeah.
Oh
Yes.
Okay. Again, this is
so
something that
true.
if I
Changing your name is fucking.
If you've got some
stupid.
meme name,
Demo
I'm not
today
gonna be able to
was
find
like Yorick Hunter or something.
Yeah,
Not
like-
Demo, but people know him as Demo.
so I brought up
that's a demo move though, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
roll
in
in
pre-show.
Probably
I in the pre-show I brought this up because I tuned into the Proving Grounds and then saw Beely was mid, and then in jungle Beely's ward was in jungle, and I instantly was like, "Who is that? I don't know who.
Yeah.
I don't know who this is." To be honest, from this, they're not taking this seriously.
Yeah, that's another
I
way
know
to
it's
look at
now, and I think it. I think it was previous now, but like honestly, again, you have to treat these scouting grounds, and you have to start treating esports like it's a serious thing. Because if you think that it's all just going to be memes and laugh, like yes, it is some like it always will have that aspect because it's video gaming, it's community based. But at the end of the day, if I go to an interview in another industry and turn up and with my name being Beely's ward, they're gonna look at me and think, "What a dickhead!" Like I'm like instantly no. So yes, put your name there, and also because if I see Previous, I then go on Twitter, I search up Previous, instant connection. If I see Beely's ward, I'm gonna have to message someone or
Yeah.
you know.
I'm
So-
just
It
saying
becomes a
this.
task. It's like when you're going through customer service and it takes forever to get to a thing, you just give up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this for players. That a really good way of doing this is real simple. You literally just have your main account as your fun one. Okay. Have a Smurf that you get to level 30, and then use that as your competitive account, which only ever
Yes,
has you with
yes.
your actual name on it, with your title of the org you're representing. Use that and just play it. And then you have two accounts. One you can just mess around with friends. It's got all the people on there. The other one you only add people that are involved with esports, and don't add like randoms and friends on it.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
keep them separate, and then that way you can separate yourself from like your Twitter. Because I see a lot of people use their main Twitters. They post a lot of crap on there when they're looking for esports orgs. People are gonna look through that.
Yeah,
Separate
it's true.
It's
Just curious, how are you guys for time? We are coming up to an hour and a half, and we still have to talk about 400 champions. You guys okay to continue?
I'm fine.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
As
mind
long as
like quickly getting a drink or something.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I could probably talk about Forge Champions for years.
I
So.
can't hear you over my product place.
What product placement, Carl?
You want product placement?
Oh, right, here we go, here we go.
What product placement are we talking about, Carl?
And now
What
I'm
even
working
is
on
that? I
boxes.
can't see that.
Yeah,
I
no,
can't see that too well. You got to product place better.
It's like,
Wait,
it's like
what?
that movie. It's like in the movies when they say, "Oh my god, is that him?" and they like enhance,
Yeah.
and then they look down and it's like enhance further. Keep going in. So yeah, perfect.
Good God.
No, but yeah, I mean, I feel like the FOC shouldn't take too long.
Okay.
Yeah.
No
Just to
worries.
wrap it up,
Sure.
don't change your name too often, so that
Yes.
you know when we're looking for you on your op.gg and stuff like that, we can still find you. And make sure that your Twitter handle is like legible and easy to find, and links to your competitive name.
If
Because
you
it's
would
been
like,
too often, it's been too damn difficult. To
if
find
you would
things.
like further advice, I think all of us here that are from the, excluding James here, don't know if he's going. We will probably help you if you come to us directly with your branding.
I know I will. Sure will.
Getting everything in the right way.
Free will.
Come to us.
Yeah.
Like my DMs are always open. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
next topic then. Let's go.
So, Forger champions. Now,
I'm gonna quickly get a drink. If that's
yeah,
all right, 'cause
no,
I've done
no
it.
worries, no worries. I understand that we have been going for quite a bit of time. So, Forger champions. A few weeks ago, me and Phil spoke about the first split with a
Yep.
few other guests. But since then, they've released on November 2nd this application process where they're saying they're working with Riot Games, and they're accepting applications to participate in the official 2019 UK League of Legends tournament. Now, they said they would release more details around the brand and the format in due course, and there was a Discord chat session on the 9th. I thought that was only open to orgs, so I didn't go along to that. Phil, I know you probably did, and I don't know whether you're allowed to share any of the information for that.
I didn't go.
Oh, did you not?
I can't. Yeah. So Carl was there for Enclave. I would say that I saw people that were participating that weren't a part of our organization. So again, I don't know whether or not the information is allowed to be shared publicly. So I'm not going to talk. I don't want to comment on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was not there because I sadly was busy. But Carl did represent Enclave there. So any question?
Just talking about the announcement itself, because we don't want to talk about things just in case we're not allowed to talk about stuff. It seems just by looking at the announcement that they're possibly going to be running a separate tournament from the regular LVP split. Is that something you'd want to see? Or so the way I gauge it, at least from reading this, is it's not like the qualifiers where any team can join. It's specifically an LVP where you have to apply, and then there's some sort of qualification criteria.
Yeah.
So does that mean there's only going to be a set amount of teams that are allowed in? Is it going to be some sort of like maybe franchising model?
There are certain things in there that I can't answer because of where it's still not in place, and I don't want to get people going the wrong way.
Of course.
But I will base it on the fact that yes, it is based on applications, and I will also put it out there as a blanket statement to say there are still opportunities for orgs that wish to get into that tournament in future after the application deadline and the 8 confirmed teams. It is still possible.
Is it 8 confirmed teams? Because I can imagine like the standard at the moment is 8 teams, but I can see it maybe being a few more depending on the amount of teams that have applied, like maybe 10.
Yeah, I'm only
What
saying
I've heard, and I wasn't in the meeting, so I guess I'm not like
in the
held accountable.
Shoot.
I've heard it's going to be 8 teams and then 2 academy teams, so a 10
academy teams. Okay.
Yeah, I've heard that 2 of the LCS teams are going to be putting academy teams into.
Okay, so
how is that a UK thing though?
Because the Fnatic is the UK org, they got their offices in the UK.
But surely their academy team has more EU players than UK. So does that mean they're getting rid of the 3
they
UK rule?
They don't have an EU. No, because they'd have to follow the same rules.
Okay.
They would have to follow the same. I mean, like essentially, at the end of the, to be honest, the whole UK rule, like for instance, 3 out of 5. There's no rule setting. They could change it. They could even change because of Brexit. The rules may change as well because technically now players that come over to the UK won't actually be just instantly considered UK because previously before obviously EU players were fine to do so. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Although Andy was considered a UK player and we didn't. Oh no, because he had an EU. Yeah, okay. So
he had an EU passport. Yeah.
Yeah, he had an EU.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how it would change. All I know is that just so people don't get confused, this LVP, the one that we have to apply for, that will be the main split. That will be the one with the EU master spot. That would be that. Any other FOC tournament would probably be done for more for other people to get involved within UK LoL. That's my feeling on how it will be. Obviously, the UK orgs that would participate in the previous Forge Champions knew this was happening, but that's because we obviously have been a part of this for
a while.
Yes, for a while. So yeah, that's how that's how it will look to be.
Would you like to see progression from the regular split into the regular? So like the qualifier and what we had this season into that one. Yeah. Do you reckon like the open qualifier should seed positions from that into this application tournament?
Maybe. I mean, maybe if for instance an org wants to invest in UK LoL, gets into it, goes through maybe an off-season tournament that is the FSC branded, and maybe there may be a promotion relegation. This is all speculation. Like there's no hard evidence.
There's no hard evidence, Nick. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, to be honest with this topic, it's like yes, it's happening. We have to apply on the 24th. We'll see what happens, but to be honest, based on what's happening, we don't like what will happen. Like not all the plans have been released by Riot, so LVP won't know. So there's too much, unknown about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we can speculate for you and try and hint you towards like what they're suggesting, but ultimately, like that could all change like next week. in a
Yeah.
month's time. The only thing we know for dead certain is you got until the 23rd, a successful application with the criteria. After that, LVP work with you, you work with them, and try and build UK esports.
Yeah, I mean the only
To a sustainable model.
you can speculate about who's going to get in. You can speculate on how hard it will be, because obviously in the I feel like one of the problems that a lot of orgs will have now is that they have made it a requirement, because obviously they're trying to build brands, that you have to be
Yeah.
sustainable. So actually, what our previous teams have been doing beforehand, with they've just been basically getting money. There you
Yeah.
go. Let's win something.
The throw
like-
money orgs.
Yeah, you can't. Can you do that anymore? Will LVP allow that? If somebody goes to them and saying, okay, we're doing this, this, and this, it's gonna, for the split, we've got a budget of like 50k, and they're like, okay, but where are you getting that money after the split or in the first year? So if there's 2 seasons, you'll be spending 100k. Are you making that back? Where
Yeah.
are you getting that from? Oh, well, we've got this from sponsors. But what happens if your sponsor drops? You all collapse. Like things like
Yeah.
this, I want to see LVP take into account, and it needs to happen, because if they just take on anyone just because they've got money and that, or just because they've got an investment or sponsors or
Or
whatever,
reputation and
Can we play a
without
game?
without having a serious business plan or a realistic one, then if they take down that, then the integrity of the whole tournament or the application process is just in jeopardy.
Can we play a little game? Put a little bet on.
sure.
So, okay, the bet is, or I'll put it out there as a little thing. How many organizations out of the 8 that were currently in FOC do you think have a sustainable business model?
Wait, hold on. Jake is piping up in chat. Bet where?
Yeah.
Um,
So I'll put a little thing of how many organizations out of those 8, to give you a base point,
Just between the 5 of
could-
us here?
or have a sustainable business model
No,
in the
You
next
you
year,
can make an
year and a half.
argument that it depends on how long you're talking about, but I think you can make an argument that not very many of them are sustainable for a long period of time.
Hey, I gave you out of 8. You got to give me a number. That's
Out of 8,
right now or
How many?
or in the last year.
So basically, from then on, from those FC teams, how many are now, or in a year and a half to?
So the 8 teams were Enclave, XL, Misfits, Wind and Rain, Diablos, M&M, Hyperion, and Barrage.
Okay, so we got some answers in chat coming in. So I want to.
If it's a 10-team league, I think 7 of those teams will get in there, along with another academy team and another org that I heard was interested in joining the league. And one of the orgs, I'm not going to say which one I think is the lowest one, because I don't want to flame.
Yeah.
I think that one of the orgs will get dropped for this new org and a new academy team.
I
Well,
think,
I'd say 5 or 6, Carl.
yeah,
You guys think 5 or
Enclave,
6 are sustainable?
Enclave,
Yeah, I think-
XL, Misfits Academy, Wind and Rain, M&M. So I'm saying 6.
Wait, are you talking about teams that have sustainable business plans, or who are getting in? 'Cause
Well, I thought
There's 2 different things.
Yeah.
I thought the question
Different
was
things.
from those who were in the last split, right? That was your question.
From those who are in the last split, how many of them fill the criteria of a sustainable business plan
Oh,
from now or into the next year? That would be able to get into the league because they
3.
fill that requirement.
Currently-
Right now, 3.
3. Yeah, 3.
So
I'd
you're
say
thinking
3.
right now 3, and then in the future, they'll-
XL, Misfits, Wind and Rain, M&M
No.
maybe.
Oh wait, no,
No.
shit, no, 4
Yeah,
then.
4.
You can take into account Misfits.
So we're thinking those organizations currently, with their resources that they've been putting in, would be able to retain their status and also fill in the requirement.
Yes,
Sustainable. Okay.
that's what I think.
Because I can tell you now that I think about 3 of those I don't think would make. I think they have a very good basis to try and make it happen. But
I think, including Misfits Academy, there are 5 teams in there that I can see that would be bang on, guaranteed to be in there the next split, and then there would be 3 other teams which are close, but it's still not 100% on.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just because I know for a fact of some of the salaries, and I'm basing it off how much value they're.
Again,
And,
if you tell me now, if you generally tell me now that an org next split, that an org next split will invest, I feel like Misfits and XL are two very different circumstances from all the rest of us. XL being because they're with Gfinity, they've got a board of directors with an investment company. They're very different, and the same with Misfits, obviously. But if you're saying right now that any of the other teams will invest around above, like, to me personally, above 10k next bit.
Yeah.
No, not even that. Like, very, like, again,
5K?
Like 5k.
Yeah.
Above, if they invest 5k above next bit, I genuinely cannot tell you how they'll make that money back.
Yeah.
And that would mean that they'll spend about 10k that year on LoL. How do you make that money back? Unless LVP come out of somewhere and say, okay, we've got revenue sharing. Unless Riot come out of somewhere and say, okay, we have Riot funded contract. How are we going to make that money back? And I don't think that would be possible.
Revenue share is probably the best option, I'd say.
The other things to consider that were in the criteria, linking it to FOC in the future, was a business plan, marketing plan, so your content and what you're releasing, and the other part, I believe, was your operation. So what you're doing with your players, your coaching staff, and what you're providing to them. As well as the spiciest one that's probably in there is the league, where anyone that was previously involved in any court cases or current need to be disclosed.
Yeah.
So if anyone's got any legal actions going against them as an organization from now on, it'd be a really good time to find out, and we can get some spicy.
Yeah. So, Forge of Champions, the announced tournament. Do you have any last thoughts on what you hope from that? Actually, no. I do have a question for James. Sorry to cut myself off there. So, James.
Yeah, go for it.
From the qualifiers, you were in the qualifiers for the last match, correct? No?
Qualifiers for what?
Forge of Champions.
Forge of Champions. No,
James,
we had to see
okay.
because we were because I was in.
Okay.
We got the spot from Radio Governance as the topic.
My question is around the two different tournaments. Do you think it's better for you as a player for there to be two separate tournaments for you to aspire to like go for, or do you think it should only be the one tournament, like the qualifiers, or only the LVP tournament, like in terms of competition and competing?
Well, I mean, if it was next split, it's a league where only approved teams can get in, and there's no tournament outside of that for the UK scene. There's no way to qualify for a player. Does make it a little bit harder because you couldn't just make a random team with your friends that no one knows about and then come in through the qualifier. But if you're a player and you get a high master rank or whatever, or you get a high solo queue rank, just message orgs, put out looking for team, tweet post, ask people to retweet it. You can still get on a team. It's not a problem. Like it whatever happens, I think it's only really good for players when the scene grows. It's for orgs that the problem comes in where LVP decides what teams are getting in, and there's no sort of like just qualification where if you just win, you get in.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, like, again, for me, I hope to God LVP are watching this. Like, we need to make sure that businesses that or people, organizations which are in this new league are in some way being regulated with how much they're spending, because it's got to the point now where previously, because everything was so unregulated, I remember like before 2018, you could get good players by just land funding. Then all of a sudden, orgs start popping up, offering like crazy money, and it just spiraled out.
The team I want to mention there is Via Metalis. You know, they had.
I mean, that never got into that. Yeah, they may have offered, but it never came into fruition. But what I'm saying is that essentially what happened is that it's spiraled out of control now, and to stick to basically keep up is just too much money for what you're actually doing. Like, what you're not getting anything in return. This isn't sustainable anymore. We need to
The big thing is, going into that split, there were it all changed. When would you say, like the back end of 2017, early 2018?
Honestly, I've said this. I think the scene itself has changed. And some people may disagree with me on this. When Diablos came in and they started big balling
it wasn't just Diablos, though. It wasn't just Diablos. Yes, Diablos were a big contributor to it. Diablos' methodology.
Vim started the whole money thing off. Jakey said.
Vim put in a lot towards that LAN, but I don't think it was anywhere near on a grander scale. Oh, I suppose when Vim were doing trials about this time last year, they thought that they were going to get the funding that they were, and they were prepared to put in something like 2,500 a month. That was a lot, but it wasn't just Vim. It was Wind and Rain. Wind and Rain were bad for it. They put in a lot of money into players like Dan, but there were players like Rifty getting paid nothing, and players like Dan getting paid a lot more, quite a lot. Diabolus, with their methodology that all the players must be paid the same, there was a lot of money pumped into players that didn't deserve the wage they were getting for the level of play they were putting out. Misfits coming in. Misfits Academy paid their players a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then there was XL, who all of a sudden got a lot of funding and went from paying, I'm pretty sure the highest paid player in 2017 was Inax with 100, and then after that they had the gaming house and they were paying their players God knows how much in wages. So it wasn't just Diabolus. Diabolus did a lot, but all of a sudden there were these 4 orgs pumping in a lot of money. It was making the other orgs have to all of a sudden fork out to stay relevant. It was making Enclave have to fork out to stay relevant. M&M have to fork out to stay relevant. And then I think it was only Hyperion and Nerd Rage that went on to be Rage Your Governors that were probably paying their players next to nothing, if not nothing at all. I know Nerd Rage definitely weren't paying anything. It was dropped, obviously. But the thing is, Nerd Rage were paying their players nothing. In the previous split, they were paying their players nothing but land funding, and they came top 4.
So
that's a huge difference.
This is what I mean, right? It needs to. It's spiraled out of control. It's gone silly now. We need to calm down. There needs to be proper checks by LVP, because again, all of us organizations can't come to some sort of agreement on what needs to happen, especially with the fact that we even though we pay salary, all of us, the players also get to take majority of the prize pool, which is mind-blowing if you think about it. Imagine again, I've raised this point so many times as a sales as someone in sales. Imagine if somebody paid me to bring sales in, and then I got all the money from sales as well. How are we supposed to make our money back when we're paying you and you take everything? It's a joke, because as well with players, once that drives up and we've got no money left, you ain't getting paid. So you guys have got to be smart as well. But my point, sorry, just so I can end, so Carl can speak. That LVP need to regulate us and make sure that what we're spending is correct with the market, and that we're not, and the prices aren't inflated, so that we can actually make money and we can grow, instead of trying to keep our heads above water by trying to keep up with everyone who are just putting in money that they're just finding from every nook and cranny.
I was going to say I completely agree, and I was going to actually add on, I think one of the causations for it was previously where organizations were saying, we'll fund you for LAN, and that was normally their main commitment. The part that extended to that was players were used to receiving the LAN being covered, and then other organizations started offering a salary on top, but they didn't lower, when you went to LAN, it was all paid for, and your part of going there was the percentage of the prize pool, right? And then what orgs started doing was they started offering the salary, but then not taking off the other, players were already this is what I expected, this is my normal. And then people started offering more, and people didn't realize that their normal, what they received, needed to change. They just wanted what they already had and the extra, rather than being well, you can have one or the other. You can get paid monthly and LAN support, but we'll take the prize pool, or you do it the other way, where we'll pay for the LAN and you take the prize pool, where there's no monthly wage. It's a one way or the other. But people want to for some reason on their business plans, were we'll do both. Yeah, we're the best org around. It's you're not going to be here in a year, so you know.
So that's something that the orgs need to come together and agree on, and something that I will be pushing for very soon. Is something like that happening? I hope that we actually move away from a prize pool, and rather that the orgs just get paid for their placements at the end of the season.
That's a good way of doing it, for sure.
It takes away that
Didn't
hassle.
ESL did that? When it was in the ESL, didn't they pay each team per week, and then there was a prize pool for the entire span of the split, which was split down?
No, you just got paid at the end of the split, and most players took that. And Carl's how basically this happened is exactly like Carl said. There just needs to now be a change in culture. Orgs players need to realize if they're getting paid salaries, they will need. I remember actually when Frim was a manager, I said I talked to him about this, and I think Frim, you maybe tell the story better, but didn't you tell this to a player and they were like, "You're crazy" or something like that?
What about saying how
How we need more prize pool.
Well, I think that in this day and age, organisations, if they're paying players, above what could be considered potentially minimum wage, if you're on wages of 300 plus a month, you shouldn't be taking any prize pool because it's just not sustainable for the organisations. If they're paying you, you should not be taking the prize pool. But it's just because that's what players are used to. And I think it was me talking to Haddo, and I was saying to Haddo, just because that is what the norm was before, these inflated wages have come in, doesn't mean it should be the norm now.
Yeah.
I agree that there should be incentives, like potentially bonuses for playing well and finishing high up. If you finish first in the league, potentially the team should be offered a bonus. That's fair.
Yeah.
But you should not be taking 10 to 20% of the prize pool as
Again,
one player
I mean,
when it's just not sustainable for org development when they're pumping that much money into you. It should be going into the organizations.
What is your value as a player, right? And this will be for the players in there, and actually James as well. I can tell you now. I'll literally value James right now. Okay.
This is a lesson with Phil. Sit down with kids.
So when I look at James, I'm like, okay, so he's a UK resident. We need 1 out of 3. It instantly, okay, that has some value. That has some value to it because we need 3 out of 5 players. So
that's got 300 followers on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm gonna add in that. So so that's good. He's also in, I would say, the top 4 best top laners in the UK. That adds some value to it because if the other 3 miss, if the other 3 go, and he's the one left, well, that adds some value to it. But then, okay, you then look at it from that's a team perspective and placements, right? Then you look at us. Okay, sponsorship is something is where we're going to get our return from James, right? It has him being a player of Enclave and the team. I look at James's Twitter, 300 followers. Okay,
Assume 10% of that.
yeah,
Maybe.
So we're not really going to get that much interaction on our Twitter. So when I go on our Twitter and our socials and stuff like that, he's not really well. We're flaming James right now, but
Yeah.
That's all right. No, don't worry
He's
about
just
it.
gonna sit there and take you.
so you're not
it's fine.
he hasn't got this huge audience which we can maybe sell merchandise to, where we could bring in someone like a sponsor and say, look, he's streaming, he's got 3,000 viewers, that's someone you can market to, etc. There's so players need to think where are we going to get our money back from you? And if you're coming, and this is something that a lot of people have come to me recently, if you Fortnite players, they come to me, they have no Twitch, they have 50 followers, and they're asking me for a salary, and I just look at them and I think, are you fucking mad? Are you generally mad? What am I getting in return for you? I'm getting nothing, so why would I pay you? And you guys need to start thinking that actually I could get paid if I raise my Twitter, if I raise my social media, if I get more viewers on Twitch, if I make myself marketable for organizations to pick up and then get sponsors for. Wow, imagine if I just started acting like a smart human being.
There's 2 extra points to raise on that. Is 1, players need to understand that if you take both a prize pool and a monthly salary, you will not have that opportunity in a year's time. That money will go and the scene will die. That's simple as. And B is also the harsh reality of the only reason that lower tier teams, if you've got a salary, is because better players above you bring in the numbers. If you're on a bottom tier team, you offer really not much. You're not offering too much to the league as a player. The organization is. And it's a very harsh reality when you realize you're a Diamond 2 player that's literally having to live off people above you. It's like, okay, I got a wage, I feel really good, I'm a really good player now. No, you're not. It's just because economy of scale, the money is flowing downwards to you.
Yeah.
And it just so happens the money at the top has got bigger, so you get a little bit bigger piece of the pie at the bottom. You still got the 1%, it's just the money overall is increased. So,
I
would just like to say that the Nerd Rage contract that was handed to us that none of us signed was promised LAN finals, which we weren't going to get, no salary, and they were going to take 20% of the prize pool.
Yeah, exactly, and that's
the difference.
Yeah,
No, but do you not think that was unreasonable? No,
it was. Yeah, 100%.
If they're paying for LAN,
they got they gave us no LAN support, no salary, but they wanted to take 20%.
If they're going to
that's
just
crazy.
jerseys, then no, you don't take.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's free advertising for them. You don't.
That's exactly what we said.
That's why there needs to be there needs to be like a fair share, like, right? So if we give you if we take you, like, for instance, if we just provide you land funding to go to an event, you're being fully funded to go to that event.
Yeah.
Actually, 20% I don't think is enough. You're just getting a free event to go there, especially if you have your food and everything paid for. You're going to represent. That's not enough. But if they're not giving you anything, why do they demand that 20%? Also, one thing I will like to touch on is actually James does have a lot more marketability than actually some players out there because of the raise. I'm not even kidding. The raise your governors thing, genuinely, I would pick up James for that reason, because I know there are people out there who actually go to his and support him in Twitch chat and interact, which I can show to sponsors. He's probably got more interaction than someone who's who's a better player than him.
Hey, I'm just over here. I had inflammation as a perfect thing for months. So I mean, we've kind of gone off topic, but I would also link this back to the scouting grounds. Is that the talk about financials and what you can expect when you're going into the scene might be a really good thing just to have a document. Just say, if you're coming in as a new player, do not expect this, do not expect that. No, what people tell you, don't believe them. This is what you should expect from an org, and then explain the reasoning why. And then you set out what you think is going to be a normal, attractive. And if like a good offer comes to you because the org is being an idiot, jump on it. Like, that's their own fault for being bad in business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would say, one of the things you should really do is look at your own personal brand, look at and like start to think about what actually makes you a marketable player and a relevant player for these organizations to pick up, because it does. Like, for instance, someone like who's Excel's top laner? Sendo. Like, Sendo. I would say that like when you measure Rifty and Sendo up, I think Rifty is a much better player than Sendo. But Sendo, his outreach, his fan base, etc., is so much higher. And this is something I think that Rifty has even admitted, that like his marketability is quite low because he doesn't give a shit. But like Sendo has obviously built a brand which has helped him get to places, and people will pick you up for that. That's one way. If you think that you're not as good as some people above you, make yourself marketable.
I mean, like, the other point of view I take on this is, do you think that's more on the player or also on a manager when they're under your organization that create?
I think sometimes for organizations, there's only so much we can do to push people. Like, we can lead a horse to water, but we can't make it drink it, right? Like,
I think it touches on what Phil said before, where it's right place at the right time.
Yeah.
If you look at Sendo is Spanish. So he covers a residency rule in the LVP Superliga Orange. So before LVP Superliga Orange was running a lot of gaming houses, Sendo would have been valued quite highly because he was a decent Spanish top laner. The viewing it gets is insane. Sendo's outreach goes up, his following goes up. And then when XL bring him on, all of a sudden he's got like 20,000 followers because he played in Superliga Orange. And then obviously that brings in a lot of traction for XL.
Just kind of, last point, Cole, because I kind of want to round off as we're actually nearer 2 hours now. James is looking rather tired.
Oh no, I'm doing fine. It's my listening face. Like, my girlfriend gets pissed at me all the time because she thinks I'm not listening or I'm getting bored, but it's just, that's my listening face. So.
You've got resting listening face. Perfect.
Do you have that face during any other activities, James?
Who knows? Sorry,
he's messaging his girlfriend now. Shut the fuck up, don't tweet.
Continue, Carl.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, from an org's point of view, if you're taking on players that are going to be between 16 and 18, they don't care about their personal brand. Like, but if you can explain to them why they need to do it, and then kind of take the first steps for them in like making their social media and doing it for them for a little while until they kind of get the ropes and then just kind of take over, I think that would be like the best solution.
I think social media training is important, especially if they want to move on and get something good.
Yeah, I mean, Hansen raised it in the chat and saying like social media managers should have a grasp of what players are under them and like how they act and like what they can tweet out and how they should do it. And I think that's a perfect example of bridging the gap, where we're talking about doing it, in theory, and actually putting it in place for your players in future. And that adds to your org as well, because you're helping the scene grow. And if your players, they leave you, but they stay in the UK scene, you're still going to benefit from it. So
100%.
Final thoughts on Forge Champions?
Woo! Yay! Let's go!
no comment. I really
Get me a
hate.
job. Give me a job.
Frim is in need of a job. Anyone out there, give this man one. James, any final thoughts from your point of view?
Go follow Raise Your Govs, because I'm just going to ask people to create more memes for me to put it on there. I do no work for that Twitter page when it was actually
Who is
relevant,
it?
but it was my
Girl?
girlfriend, and then
I
also
thought it was.
Yeah.
and then also some of my friends on Discord. But yeah, Sophie's amazing. Go follow
That was a little plug for your girlfriend.
Sophie Luna. Yeah, of course it's a plug. I put it in chat as well.
You know, I'm looking for a community manager, James.
Hey, Jeff's already tried to get her to do that.
As he, the little fucking scumbag.
Whoa, toxic, Phil.
No, come on, that's the way I say I love you to Jeff. Come on, man.
So just to sort of round up today's stream, I'd like to thank all of you for being able to do this on so short notice after having to reschedule the original stream that I had planned. So thank you all for coming out and making it so entertaining to talk to you about Forge of Champions, Proving Grounds, Scouting Grounds. Has been amazing. So thank you guys for coming on.
No problem.
No problem at
Thank
all.
you very much for organising it, Cameron.
Yeah,
Thanks, Cameron.
Thank you.
It took some work, but we got there.
What they said.
Indeed.
And I've put my social media in chat if players want to come ask me questions. Or
Yeah,
anybody's
as well.
open to me. So I've got business advice for other people as well.
Disguised plug.
If anyone
Yeah.
needs me to stream some events, I'm down to do that as well.
Enclave Gaming.
Everyone just put their plugs
Okay.
in now.
Yeah.
Let's just do it. Go.
Arctic.ac. Go check it out.
Yikes, man.
You know, shout out to my boys Jamie from Gamers Apparel.
Anyway, cool.
Stop doing.
To sort of round off as well, next Sunday, same time, 7 p.m, I'll be having a special podcast where I'll be interviewing Grow Score, finding a bit more about what he knows about the League of Legends scene. So I hope all of you can come and watch that and support me with that. And I hope you all have a good rest of your day. Thank you, guys.
You too, Cameron.
See you later.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Bye now.
Peace.